I want to talk a little bit about recruitment strategy and what I think the minimum requirement is now in this market to be successful in a recruitment campaign. And what I would say at the moment is that if you want to be successful in this market in recruiting, you are going to have to do a lot of little things right, a lot of little things. Not just some of those things, you're gonna have to do a lot of things right, a lot of 1%ers or a lot of, let's call it 10%ers is probably the better way of looking at it. The first thing you need to do is when you write an advertisement, it's gotta be effective. Don't just grab a job description and dump it into an ad and expect that that is a good enough advertisement. What you need to do is you need to sell the benefits of the role. It needs to be short and sweet. And we've actually even done training on this around effective ad lengths. And the other thing we find in adverts that doesn't belong there quite often is unnecessary criteria. Things like, I'll give you some classic examples. Can-do attitude, works well in a team. I'm sure there's more of these. Works well in a team, can-do attitude, just those sort of. Yeah. Oh, what's that? Able to work with lots of priorities. Sorry. Yeah, able to work unsupervised. Like, I don't think there's ever been a job applicant who's looked at an ad and gone, you know what, I haven't got a can-do attitude, I'm not going to apply for that role. Like, absolutely stupid, those things in there. So you've got some employers as well that are still in this mindset of, I expect that when someone applies for my role that they send me a resume, that I get a cover letter, and then they give me a phone call, and you've got to try and tell the client, well, sorry, it's not 2001. You've got to adapt to the click and send era. That you've got to sell the role to the candidate, not the other way around. That's also changed. It was the old days, it was the candidate, saying everything you want to hear to get that role. It's the other way around these days. So effective advertisements, short, benefits important, benefits most important, and even thinking about benefits that you might not think are benefits, but are better than what your competitors are offering. It might be something like, obviously, the flexibility. If yours is a 1-4 or a complete remote work, then gloat about that, advertise that. If you've got a good brand, advertise that. If the one day a week at the office there's on-site parking, advertise that. So those sort of things is important. The second thing you need to do to be successful is you need to use multiple boards. If you are just using Seek, it's not enough. You need to be broadening your horizons on the number of boards that you use. We would typically use a minimum of 3 or 4, and then we would also look at community pages for particular types of roles in particular types of suburbs. So that's very important as well if you want to get results. Social media strategy is another one where what we would do is we would take an ad that's running on a board, put it into, typically we use Facebook for this. I think we've used LinkedIn for it as well. But what you're wanting to do is then create passive traffic to the ad. So what that's designed to do is that some people are not looking on boards, and in fact, these days there's so many jobs that are being offered, so many people that are being spoken to, and they're not even on boards. They're having conversations. They're coming up. They're appearing on social media pages. That's your passive candidates, your passive market as well. Because some people are, it's been so many times where I've heard, candidate was very content in their current role, got offered astronomical amount of money to go into another role, too good to refuse, left, took the role. That happens a lot. Or, benefit they couldn't turn down, took the role. Those sort of things happen. So social media strategy is important. The next one is, again, very, very important also. Probably the most critical stage. Shortlisting, phone screening, and interview scheduling. So what we would do in our hybrid model that we offer to clients is we would shortlist as soon as candidates come in, and we would phone screen as soon as candidates come in. And this phone screening is where a lot of employers fail internally, because what they do, that's the first impressions to the candidate. And a lot of those first impressions, you hear a lot of clients say, oh, we just do the recruitment ourselves. But they do it in a way that it's unstructured. They speak to the candidate on the phone. It comes across, it's unprofessional. It's unprofessional. They don't have a structure around how they go about, first of all, the phone interview. Second of all, they don't make the next steps clear. And it just ends up ends up being a waffle conversation where they go through a resume, they kind of fumble their way through a resume, ask a few questions, and we'll get back to you if we want to do something. You know, that's not a compelling case to put to a candidate that you want to hire. So that's critical, and that's one of the main benefits we actually say to our clients is the why you're better off using us is because we will always have a plan for phone interviewing, which will be different for every role, and it's a professional first impression where the candidate is, we engage that candidate with the process. Interview scheduling, again, as soon as we have a phone screened person who we think is eligible or meets the criteria for interview, we will be hassling the client to make that interview happen either the next day or the day after or the day after that. Getting any longer than that, again, it's just that time risk of what Isabella said before about multiple irons in the fire and other roles coming thick and fast. So speed important. Don't have your drawn out interview process. Don't even have your 2 interview process anymore. If you look, the people who need to make the decisions need to make themselves available quickly. It's not this, you screen them and then come in and see someone else on another day. That might work for very, very, very senior roles, but for the sort of the daily bread, if you like, the stock standard roles that are in the middle of the market, of which there are most, that doesn't work for those roles anymore. So quick decision making, single interview processes is important. Reference and pre-employment checks are important, but keep them essential and keep them relevant. We have some clients who need to do things like police checks. Fine. If they need to do police checks, do them quickly. If you need to do reference checks, you always should do reference checks, do them quickly. If you need a pre-employment medical, do them quickly. Don't drag that out. Don't make the process feel uncomfortable for the candidate. And what you can also do, you can also make offers conditional on those things being completed after. So you don't necessarily have to wait to offer. You can say this offer is subject to these things being completed prior to the start date. So that's another way that you can get those things done, but still make the commitment to the candidate, as quick as you can. And then the other thing is, professional offer negotiation, employment contract, and onboarding. This is another area where the clients will fail at the last hurdle, is that the offer negotiations are not sophisticated. They don't understand what this role is in the market, or they're trying to haggle over a little bit of money, or it's not a professional engagement with the candidate on that offer. The employment contract, sometimes they don't deliver it in a timely manner. They will send an email with a couple of numbers on it and think that's going to be enough to engage a candidate. We've seen candidates actually from clients who haven't used us for this stuff make that mistake, where they've just gone ahead and put a bunch of stuff, fluffy numbers in an email with no real meat to the bone, and then the candidate goes, "Oh, this just doesn't come across as professional. I'm not going to take the role." Onboarding is also part of the process, but again, needs to be done quickly, and onboarding can also be after the candidate starts. So the speed and the feedback and the candidate engagement is essential at all times, and this is where the recruitment efforts internally will often fall down, because there's a number of areas where that is deficient. And it's funny actually, because we talk a lot with our clients about this cycle of failure in recruitment, and what happens with the client is that they do recruitment themselves for the reasons we've outlined today. They fail internally doing it. So then they think the answer is to go to the recruitment agent. So go to the recruitment agent, right? And the recruitment agent, all the recruitment agent's interested in doing is selling someone, selling any candidate that they can sell, and saying anything that they can to the client to sell them. And here's your 3-month guarantee, which in most professional roles, you're not going to really have a good idea of how someone's going to be in that role for 3 months. And even if they don't pass the 3 months, all you get is a credit for another person anyway. So you don't even get your money back in these situations. So they go through this, what I call cycle of failure. They go through internal recruitment, not working, agency, too expensive, internal recruitment, failure, agency expensive. So one of the things, what I would say is that what we offer in this area is very unique. It doesn't necessarily have to be us doing it. It can be you guys doing it or can be your client doing it. But we firmly believe in company branded recruitment campaigns properly managed. Now, often it's properly managed means externally managed by someone like us, but it can be internally managed if you've got someone who has the time. If you've got an operational manager juggling this as their 9th hour in an 8-hour day, well, you're not really going to give the process the time it deserves to be successful in it. And we have some clients we've spoken to them about doing recruitment for them, they've kept doing it themselves, and they're still advertising and recruiting for the same roles they were looking for 6 months ago. So that's where it's at. Before I get to this slide, I did want to also say about salary benchmarking. We should have had it in this slide, but anyway, I will talk to it. And it goes to the point you made earlier around, also about reviews. Salary benchmarking in this market is critical. One of the things we are doing now for our clients all the time is, whether it's an existing role or whether it's a role we're recruiting for, we say, okay, what is the market paying for this role? And that's the only way we can make informed and somewhat scientific decisions on, what we should be paying someone. If someone comes internally, we've had people do this, internally, who've come and said they're on 70 grand a year, say, I'm worth 110 grand a year, I'm going to leave. And then you go, okay, well, how do you respond to something like that? You either call that person's bluff, you stick with the current salary, or you make some sort of adjustment, but not up to that point. So one of the best ways of scientifically making good decisions on those things is looking at salary benchmarking. And typically what we would do is it would be a combination of salary surveys that we subscribe to, combined with a lot of just simple advert activity. But not only do we look at current adverts or similar advert activity, we go back to that whole principle we spoke about before of indirect competition. So what roles are we indirectly competing with? What are those roles offering? And the salary benchmarking gives you at least an understanding of where you sit against the market and what you're going to have to pay for a certain role. I don't like this idea of the client coming and saying, oh, our budget for this role is this, because sometimes the budget for that role, if we think it's way below market, then we will just say to the client, look, maybe you're better off not recruiting for this person at this time until you have the right budget to be competitive in the market. So that is something that we would say to the client in some situations where it's warranted. So salary benchmarking is really good because it can give you an understanding of, we talk about this flight risk concept as well, and it goes to the point of, well, how often should we salary review? We should be certainly benchmarking as much as we can, and we don't necessarily need to do a formal review every 3 months, but what we should be doing constantly is understanding, people in the organization. Just we'll get a staff list of our clients and we'll identify 3 or 4 or 5 roles we think, well, that could be risky. Let's look at that. Let's look at salary benchmarking that role. We'll go back to the client and say, look, we think this role is 10K under the market. We think this person's at risk. Are they a good performer, yes or no? If they're not, well, then you don't worry as much. If they are, then yes, we've got to look at doing something there. And it's back to that whole principle. It's the same as the principle we said before about the working from home. It's if, person's working 5 days a week in the office, competitors offering 1 day a week from the office, well, that's what's out there as an alternative. Same with this salary benchmarking. If we're paying 70, the role's paying 80 generally in the market, that's what the alternatives are offering. So better to be ahead of those things than to be playing catch up with those things. Does your business currently have a HR or workplace relations issue?
Are you unsure how to work through compliance issues but still achieve a good business outcome?
Why not take advantage of On-Demand HR's free 30-minute online consultation with an experienced HR consultant?
At the end of the consultation, we also provide you with a strategic action plan to resolve your current issues.
To see the types of matters we can help with and to schedule your consultation, please visit ondemandhr.com.au/advice.
We look forward to delivering certainty, confidence, and clarity for your business in your HR and workplace relations affairs.